Todd McFarlane, the legendary creator of Spawn, and also the man who really reinvented the look of Spider-Man to the point that every illustration of Spider-Man now really references what Todd McFarlane did. He had a lot of things to say. He's also got a new Kickstarter, but he talked about the business, and I think he wound up saying some things that are very smart and worth paying attention to. Hey everybody, this is Perch. Trying something different with a microphone, so we'll see how that feels. Got a different microphone here. We'll see how this quality of stuff worked. Anyway, Todd McFarlane has got himself a Kickstarter right now, and it is basically, it's not even for a comic book, it's for a toy. It's basically a remaster of his original kind of modern Spawn look. There's a couple different pricing tiers. What's noticeable is that he exceeded $850,000 within 24 hours. And it's an incredibly powerful action figure and comic that's remastered. Again, there is a comic there, but the toy is leading. But it's really quite incredible what he's put together. But aside from just complimenting him on what he's managed to do and this being a very successful crowdfunding campaign, and I think, by the way, his pricing tiers and the way he's describing it is pretty much a lesson for anyone doing crowdfunding about how to kind of properly convey what the product's going to be and what's there and everything else. So if he delivers on it on time, then he's really done the whole crowdfunding side of the world a huge service. But he also gave an interview with Forbes. And in this interview, he talks about being in the business for a long time. He's talked about all the different roles he's played. And he has one statement here I want to read to you because I think it is powerful in its simplicity. The fact is, we have to do something. Things have changed in our industry, obviously, both on the toy side and the comic side. No new comics are coming out. That's a really dangerous situation. Not just for us, but for any consumer industry that relies on established customer habits. If you give your customer a chance to break their habit, they might not come back. I understand how we got here and why we're at a standstill, but even if the distributor diamond is down, we can't sit here and do nothing. So I'm trying to do something. Remember, even if we're not going to stores or movies right now, geeks will always be geeks, so we need to find ways to keep what we do on the minds of customers however we can. Okay, so I want to take a couple pieces out of there because people are using this article as a way of saying, look, Todd's bashing Marvel or Todd's beating up on Diamond, and that's reading too much into what's going on. What Todd's really saying is, number one, there is a call to action moment. I've been saying it on several videos now. This is a moment where leaning back, pencils down, whatever you want to call it, is not what we need to be doing. At the publisher side, we need to come up with solutions. And those solutions cannot be temporary solutions. Those solutions need to be long-term in thinking. We need to start breaking the model up in different ways. I mentioned in a video a little bit ago about figuring out a different way to do digital and the fact that digital does need a story. We can't just leave it as this angst-ridden, well, some of the retailers don't like it, and it doesn't make us a lot of money, and what should digital be anyway? We're not sure. Those days have to be over. It's time to grow up, it's time to clean your room, and it's time to actually have a plan for how we're going to manage this business as a whole. And that includes everything and everyone. Retailers, distributors, publishers, creators, fans, we've all got to come up with this. So Todd is saying we have to do something. He's correct. And the other thing he's saying, which is really smart, something I've said before as well, is if you give the customer a chance to break their habit, they might not come back. That's incredibly true. There's a bunch of people, and I'm seeing a bunch of people from the big two and others talking about, man, can you imagine the huge party there's going to be when comics can get to stores again? And the problem is, I can't imagine that. And I can't imagine it because I don't think it's going to happen. What is more likely to happen is that people are slowly going to trickle back into the stores. And a lot of stores won't make it. And we're also teaching people that, hey, maybe that $40, $80, $120 a month you were paying for comics is too much. Remember a video I did a few weeks ago talking about when the sticker shock people were going to have when they came back into their stores and they pick up their pull list. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Here are some comics that I've gathered, and there will be a couple in there that people are going to be thrilled to buy. If you're a big X-Men fan, you're going to be excited to see X-Men. If you're a Teen Titans fan, you're going to be excited to see that. Or a Wonder Woman fan or a Batman fan. If you were loving what James Tynion III was doing, the fourth, was doing with Batman, you're probably going to be very excited to read more about Joker and Punchline and all the rest. But it's those other 4 or 5 comics in your pull box that really weren't that happy with. You know, you're collecting them because you're a collector. You didn't want to break your run. Or maybe you really like the Fantastic Four, so you got pulled into buying some of Empire, and you were getting some of those crossovers and those tie-ins. Well, those tie-ins are going to feel really bad at a $3.99 price point. And if you've had a break of 2 months from comics, and I mean, here's hoping you've been able to keep your job, but if you're unemployed, if you are laid off, or if you just have been conserving your cash because you're not sure what's going to happen, you're in this fear state, you're not going to walk back into the store and cheerfully put $60 down on the counter and pick up a bunch of comics that you didn't really want. We're giving people a chance to break their habit. That's what's going on. That's the danger right now. And I say this for the publisher and for the retailers. For the publishers, you guys have to come up with a better plan. You have to come up with a way to get comics out into the market. For retailers, I understand the fear about digital. I understand why that's alarming and could impact your business. But if you don't keep people attached to this product, they are going away. Digital or no digital, they're leaving. So, Todd goes on, he talks a little bit about his time with Spawn and everything else, and he talks about the movie and some of the streaming services and other things. But then he comes back to comics. And he talks about how, look, we've had downturns. We've lost a lot of customers in the 90s. This is different. Now we have 0 customers and 0 new printed comics. As an industry, we've never stared at 0 before. It's completely unprecedented, and we don't know where it's going or when it will end. We can try and save retail all we want, but it's tough if consumers can't go to stores. Everything needs demand. What's the demand going to be once we open up? Will people be more conservative about spending? They will. Will they decide they can live without comics for 3 to 4 months? Maybe they don't need to spend their money on them. Yes. Or some people have money and want to buy new stuff, but the stores are out of business. Those are a lot of unknowns. And then he goes on to say, the industry needs to send a consistent message. And if you've been listening to my show, I've said the exact same thing. Whatever that message is, right or wrong, we need to be consistent. We need to get out in front of things. That's my comment. We need to get out in front of things. Back to Todd, sorry. Even if we have to adjust it. But what we really need to speak with one voice, not 4 or 5 different publishers running 4 or 5 different programs and methodologies. It just ends up confusing the retailers and the customers. If they put me in charge, and no one wants that, I understand, here's what I do. I take Image, Dark Horse, Marvel, and DC, the top 90% of the market, and I'd make a message from the 4 of us as a unified front. One message. At the very least, I'd say that surely amongst the leaders, we can throw in 10 new comics for free as digital downloads. Top titles, the ones people really want to read. We can afford it. It doesn't necessarily help the retailers, but we can't allow customers to lose that exercise of being geeks, of getting their regular dose to keep their geekiness going with comics, instead of moving on to other things like streaming video or gaming, because they will. We need to engage people in comics, and if we're not doing new comics, I don't get how we can keep them interested. People say, do they have to be free? Couldn't they be 99 cents? And for me, the answer is yes, free. We've done okay. We can afford to give something back. Then, once this is over, we can do 3 to 5 events to give people a reason back into the stores. Maybe we can coordinate the timing for one, so each company gets a turn in the spotlight. Maybe do some cross-company stuff to make it sexy. Maybe the industry will be diminished. It depends on how long it goes. It's an unknown. But whatever is left is the new norm. We'll need to adjust and work from there. So, unpacking that a little bit. You heard me talk a couple of days ago about digital. Yeah. At this point, the big publishers need to view digital as marketing. They need to give some of those things away, and for exactly the reason Todd is saying, and I was saying before. We need to keep people hooked. We need to keep people excited about this industry. We need to keep feeding them with new stories, and that means going free. Now, you can do this without blowing up everything. You could basically take some of your comics that you were going to print, but now you're not going to, and you can create some special X-Men stories. You can take this X of Swords, Sword of X storyline, and you can make it free. You can make Empire free on digital. Now, you may be thinking on the publisher side, oh my God, what's he saying? We were planning to make a lot of money off those events. Yeah, you were. And your customers were planning to be employed, and shops were planning to be open, and we weren't planning to be stuck in our houses on lockdown. You need to give people something big, juicy, meaty to keep them into comics. Hey, you know what, DC? Maybe death metal is free now. How about that? Maybe death metal is a digital event to celebrate DC Comics, the fans, and everything else, and it's free. It's going to be digital distributed. You can make some money printing the trade paperbacks later with some inside art, maybe some other stuff, but maybe it's time that that event rolled out for free and use it as a resetting moment for the comic industry to get people really excited, to get a lot of marketing out there. Blast that comic everywhere. Don't just go to Comixology through a code. Get those, put PDFs out there if you have to. Get people sharing it on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere. Get the comic out for free. Yeah, death metal, the thing you're expecting to make $1 million plus on, free. How about that? You're going to be making some other, some money off of other crossovers and other things, but get this stuff out there and get people really excited that comics are there. Get them salivating about the idea of reading the stories that come after this, because the industry was not moving from a position of strength right now. No one, not Marvel, not DC, not Image, not Dark Horse, nobody was moving from this position of strength where they could afford to go on a hiatus for 3 to 4 months. And who cares? People will come back. They'll spend money anyway. Everybody was struggling a little bit. So you need, at the publisher level, to get something out there huge. And this is a way to do it. I think Todd is being brave here, and that is what should happen. He goes on to answer the question, retailers have expressed concern about digital aid, saying it will hurt them. And Todd says, I don't agree with retailers. Guess what? I don't either. I'm a retailer. I've had comics sold in the past. I've had shops. I'll have a shop again in the future. I've consistently been in this business as a retailer. And I don't agree with the other retailers. Doing nothing is not the answer. We have to allow digital in. Digital is a reality. It cannot be this thing. Any retailer is sticking their head in the sand and saying, no, collectors will always want paper. That's you going out of business. I'm sorry, period. That's you going out of business. Digital is going to be a part of our future. The other side of it, which I will also argue with just as much passion, is that digital is not going to become the only thing. Paper comics are not going to go away. These two things have to live together, and they can, and they will. Here's the thing. This isn't a prediction. This is the future. Both things will live together. We've been hearing that books are going to disappear and go digital for nearly 20 years. They're not going to. People are still going to pick up paper books, and paper books are still going to be sold. At the same time, ebooks and digital distribution is a reality. And the sooner the industry, the sooner the publishers, the sooner the retailers, the sooner as everyone calibrates around the fact that these two things are going to have to live together, the better. Fighting against inevitable evolutions like this is a way you die. Either come up with a plan, live with it, or die. That's where things are at. So Todd says, if I put Spawn out digitally for free or at discount for a few months, does that mean that customers won't buy those issues at retail? Maybe not. But I say to the stores, don't worry about getting issues 307, 308, 309 that come out when you're closed and can't get printed copies anyway. Fans will come back for 310 when things reopen. They'll come back for Batman or whatever they're reading. Who cares about the number? It's a comic you're selling at the same price. Who cares if people get it a different way in the meantime? And then he uses an analogy which is accurate, but maybe a little bit painful to think about. And says, here's what I know about addicts. The longer they go sober, the easier it is to stay sober. We don't want our customers to break that habit. Consumers will be filling their time somehow. Why let a competitor fill out with streaming media or games? We need to fill it. We as companies have the power to make that happen. It's painful to keep having this argument in 2020. This argument that if the retailers just close their eyes and stomp their feet, that digital won't happen and that people will keep coming into stores. I listen to the most ignorant idiots out there talk about how if we can just hold it off, then the collector market will always exist. Guess what? Your collectors are going to die. The new comic readers are not coming in, and you're going to be managing over a shack. Who in the right minds wants to open up a business that is a tiny rinky-dink crap business? Is that anybody's passion? That's not mine. I like making money. This is the future, and we have to get around with it. Um, it's a bold interview from Todd. I hope people listen to him. He's obviously not, core to the industry like he once was, but he's still absolutely a visionary. He's somebody who's done this before. He's somebody that needs to be listened to. And I think the points he's making are dead on as we talk about where comics need to go. And it is the time to make some pretty dramatic changes, which, by the way, virus or no virus, these big changes were coming. We're getting them faster than we thought. I did prediction videos saying that these things are going to hit by 2025, maybe even in the next 2 to 3 years. The virus accelerated that up, and here we are now. It's a good interview. I hope you check it out. It's on Forbes. Links in the description. Please do. Some interesting stuff to talk about, think about there. What do you think? Leave me your comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Would love to know your feelings, your views on all of this. Like, subscribe, share. Please share with a friend. Don't forget about your buddy Perch here, and share the video. Get that stuff out there. Always appreciate when you do. I hope you liked it. Follow me on Twitter, Comic Perch. Send me some comments and questions there. I'm here to save this industry. If I have to drag it kicking and streaming to being saved, I will do that. It's my cross to bear. I'm a fan. I'm a retailer. I'm not a creator, except in my own crazy little mind. We're all part of this industry. It's time for us to save it. Thanks for listening.